Welcome to the Comfortable in Chaos Podcast. Strangle your demons and let's go.
Y'all need Jesus!
I feel so unsure as I take your hand and lead you to the dance floor. As the music dies, something in your eyes. Welcome to the Comfortable in Chaos Podcast. I am your host, Eric Hellberg. And you know, we're like Einstein over here, men. Yes, we are living a month in a day. It is the end of the week. It's finally Friday. I'm free again. Yeah, gonna have myself another wild weekend. Yeah, we're all going crazy. What are we gonna? I'm gonna watch The Godfather with the kids. We have a baseball tournament. Is that crazy enough? I think so. Man, that was Careless Whisper. And how many of us, as my naval uncle would say, have engaged in loose lips, sinking battleships? Are those careless whispers? Are we talking about others when our own shit isn't together? Let's cut it out, man. Man, George Michael. We think we have an image of him, a perception. I mean, dude was a good-looking guy, man. Silky smooth voice. I dug him. I didn't know what to do with that kind of music when I was a teenager. I mean, it evoked all this like emotion and different stuff. I was like, what the heck? I guess you listen. Okay, cool. But we knew him from Wham. And then he kind of in his own right became a pop culture icon. We know he had some episodic stuff where everyone wanted to cast stones per se and condemn the man. And we also know that he was gay, right? Homosexual, whatever term you want to use. I believe he passed away. I know a lot of people said maybe he had HIV, AIDS. I don't know. Honestly, I don't care. But I think the official cause of death was cardiac arrest. At my age, 53 years old, man. You can live a lot of life in 53 years. And it seems static, but it goes so fast. But his life was cut short for whatever reason. And a lot of people will think about him and they're wondering, man, what kind of life wasted? Especially our good old religious Pharisees out there in the world. It's easy to cast aspersions and thumb their nose at this guy. Did you know that along his life, unbeknownst to us, that what dude would do, let's say he was in a pub or a restaurant, and he just simply happened to get to talking to a lady, and she could say, hey, yeah, I'm stressed. I'm having trouble with these payments. I may lose this house. I made this or that. He'd sit there empathetically, listen to this young lady. And then he would get ready when he was leaving because he couldn't stay too long. He was a public figure. He would, of course, pay for his meal, pay for her meal. And this was back in the day. He would ask a waitress and or a bartender to get their requisite information and leave a check for a specified amount. It happened over and over. $5,000, $10,000, $25,000. He would pay for people who had come into England and shown themselves to be generally well-meaning folks, but they were penniless, scraping by. He'd provide for the whole family, had a special spot for sick kids, pay for all their medical care, and things like that you never heard publicized. But when he had a little, I guess, sexual tryst and or substance abuse problems, that's what everyone wanted to have careless whispers about. and let their big flapping lips sink everyone's battleship because they had to cast judgment. Why? Makes us feel better about other people, especially when they're going through troubles and we don't want to acknowledge our own or even admit that maybe we have some. We're just simply not mired in that at this given time. So damn, we must be doing well, right? So no matter what the hell happened to George Michael, I would say his heart is in the right place, and Lord willing, he went to be with Jesus. And now this episode is going to be Friday's Follies, and it is a folly to judge. So before we get all upbeat and kicking it and doing all the good stuff, let's just say, who is it that you're trying to please? I would say in the case of George Michael, all of his attempts to please his peers, his fans, to cultivate those fans, the people around him, whomever, left him catastrophically empty, and it will you too. So here is the easiest way to get your life right, and I'm working on it now. Stop trying to please these fools out here that can do nothing for you. And in fact, if you want a good test of who needs to be around you, let it be how you treat those who can provide you nothing. And despite providing nothing, who is it that still wants to be around you? How about that? And that gets us more in line with how the Creator, meaning God, not Allah, meaning God, and what He created you for. So, if you start figuring out what that is and how you are supposed to be spiritually and inside yourself, that conviction, I'm pounding my chest, that you feel and that you know, that is intrinsically within you, the normal difference between right and wrong, that's the Holy Spirit. Now, we can belie that. We can go against it. We can dumb it down by not following it when we know better. And that's when life starts taking on a different course. But listen to that. It was given to you. Read the Bible to reinforce that, and then start acting accordingly. And then your actions, especially with your loved ones around you, and we don't give about anyone else, let that trickle out to the rest of the world. And you also love thy neighbor as you would yourself. And that's what George Michael was doing. But that is your guide. That is your highest calling and what you should aspire to be. That should take the guesswork out of how to live this life. Because if you're going to keep trying to quantify it by what you think this person wants, or how you should look, or what you should drive up in, or what you should say, you're effed. I'm going to tell you what confidence is. Confidence comes from doing that and not belying your morals or integrity. You're going to say, well, that sounds easy, Eric. Most people it is not easy for. I don't give a crap who they are. Unless they're in a position of power, and then they can look down upon someone and or have people coming up to them when they enter a room. Here's what confidence is. You know that you don't have to say or do one more thing because you already realize you are accomplished enough. You don't have one thing to prove as a man to anyone else in that room. And if someone tries to make you feel compelled as if you need to do so, screw them. You already know they're fallen. Move on. So let's begin Friday's Follies, shall we? Item number 1, gentlemen, if you are trying to become a woman and you are so sick in your head that you are taking pharmaceuticals and there is some sick, as a doctor that is dispensing these to you in your quest to become this, and you think that you are going to now, with the aid of these hormones and pharmaceuticals, start lactating like a woman, therefore, what is the goal, right? For your sick partner to latch on to your now female, what used to be male parts, and or you adopt a kid because love is love, and now they're going to latch on to you? You sick puppies, man. Here's what I'm going to tell you. Screw this gender stuff. All right? Go get you a bunch of roosters, chicken farmer, and let me know when you start getting some eggs. All right? Start raising some bulls, you fool, and let me know how it goes when you get ready to milk them. This is twisted up shit. Here's another folly for you. I guess this would be item number 2. In no special order. And you know that we like alliteration, right? We like using the same letter and letting it roll off our tongue in multiple words. So this folly will be family court folly. If you have a father and he is emotionally and or physically and or financially involved with their child, and you're lamenting being a part as a single mother, but that father is doing that for their love of their children, well, here's another F for you. F that. You're no damn single mother. You're just a single woman. Because the father is there. No more argument. One more F. That is finite. Case closed. And then our last foible on Friday's Follies before we get into our actual substance. Let's just go back. I wish I could remember her name, but I just saw an old snippet of it from CBS News. And she called President Trump. Now, this was an attractive redheaded lady, right? Because evidently the executives, and remember, Fox was supposedly the more staunchly conservative news outlet. I mean, they're just doing propaganda for all these leftists too. I don't have much respect for them. Haven't had it in years, to be honest with you. They always sit 2 dudes on the periphery, and they sit a lady with her legs crossed directly in the camera facing the middle. Isn't that a little preposterous? Ladies, don't you have a little respect for yourselves? And I know it's supposed that they wouldn't have them unless the men were watching, but it goes both ways. Turn that shit off until they put someone on there, put them fully clothed, put them behind a desk. We want news, but we don't even need to tune in for that because you don't even give real news, Fox News. But let's get back to the CBS anchor. So she decided as a feminist she needed to compete with men, set the table straight, of course. Well, how's that working out for you? How's your life while your kids are being managed or taken care of by someone else? Yeah, you powerful lady. Anyways, you're in it for self-aggrandizement. You're a skank, and you lied too, calling Donald Trump a liar. And what was the lie? Oh, that if Joe Biden gets elected, our country will be flooded with illegal immigrants. Well, I guess President Trump was right. And now you see the result. So we've lapped at our saucer. The warm milk has tasted good. It has eased our wild palates. But now it is time for a little bit more meat on this Friday's Follies. And I was just thinking about all these encampments, all these nut jobs protesting the genocide in Gaza, Palestine, the made-up state. And they are so aggrieved that despite the barbarity, all the horrific stuff that Israel, in fact, there's hostages still being killed, what happened to women, babies, just the average citizen is beyond comprehension. And we've discussed that a few times on this show already. And it's out there for you to see for yourself if you ever want to put some type of moral equivalency on it. But evidently these Hamas supporters, including President Biden, I guess they're a little bit perturbed. I guess when an outside source, meaning Israel, meaning non-Islamic, non-Muslim, starts whooping up some ass on some Muslims, everyone gets in a tizzy. Because genocide is genocide, right? Self-protection is self-protection, right? We've discussed various genocides on this show, i.e. Rwanda. What about ISIS in the Middle East? And what I was thinking of was this. Isn't it funny, excuse me, how you will have Muslims decry that they are in the minority and therefore have no representation. But whenever they are in the majority, you don't even have to worry about a minority. You know why? They cease to exist. In fact, they're not allowed to exist. And what I am wondering is, where was the indignation? Where were the feminists? Where were the protests? Where were the encampments? We would have welcomed them around our universities. Hell, we welcome these, right? They've been funded. They've been looked after. They've been pacified until they just got too delirious and violent and started stopping the day-to-day operations of these institutions, which have to go on. But where have all these people been? A lot of them are ladies, well-meaning ladies. And these are ladies preaching women's rights. Not for the Israeli women and or the Israeli babies, but for the Hamas women. And they're Arab women. So let's talk about Arab women. And let's talk about genocide. Now, when President Bush decided to go back into Iraq, and this is a whole other story, but we're rolling on Friday's Follies. So we're ad-libbing, we're just kind of extrapolating, we're thinking as we talk. So Papa Bush didn't finish the job. Now follow me here. Papa Bush did not finish the job. Stormin' Norman evidently made a call to President Bush and said, look, man, we're already here. Let's just go on into Baghdad and get Saddam. Now, Stormin' Norman wasn't all that smart. He was West Point educated and all that good stuff, but he just couldn't really comprehend the complexities of the global economy. So Bush Sr. said, no, Stormin' Norman, look, we cannot get a mobile kitchen as big as you are to follow you along the road to Baghdad and then to get Saddam, because he may hide. Between you and your top generals, that's 2 or 3 more buffets. We just don't have the logistics nor the money to cater to you boys. And I know you don't like the special operations forces. You have a disdain for them. You like more set-piece warfare. So that means we got to feed you, Stormin' Norman, and your belt size has kind of grown. And due to your girth, we're going to pull back. We're going to leave Saddam alone. Do y'all like that explanation, man? I like it. But let's get a little bit deeper. It's amazing to me how from 1980 through 1988. Now, granted, the first Gulf War was in 1991. Between 1980 and 1988, now we had Ronald Reagan as president. Carter left in disgrace. Over 1 million plus men, meaning Iraqi and Iranian men, perished. A whole generation of those two countries' men perished. All the while, not directly, we had to do it secretly. We provided weaponry to Iraq. And then we openly said that they were purchasing weapons from us. We wouldn't just simply provide them, you see. Not kind of like what we're doing in Ukraine, because we had to look good. But it's very interesting because Henry Kissinger said it's a shame that both sides can't lose. Our chief diplomat, Henry Kissinger, said it's a shame both sides can't lose. We're going to support Iraq, but we'd like to kill them all. Both sides. All right. We supported them in dual-use intelligence. Trained them in some of our intelligence apparatus techniques. Actually provided them military training. But we also, despite all this, making Saddam think he had a friend and an ally in the United States now because we're doing all this, and making him feel upright and just in his cause. He's like, I'm going to do this because we hate those mothers over there. And, we're the Ba'athist. We think a little bit different. And in the Islamic world, hey, you can still be a Muslim, but if you're a little bit different, we're going to kill your ass. That's just it. Okay. So he was a great hedge against now our boy, the Shah in Iran. Oh boy, he was westernized. He was a pretty boy. I mean, he came and went back and forth to galas and parties in Washington. And man, Iran was modern. It was wide open, baby. But then them mullahs. Oh yeah, we got it with the mullahs. And then the people with the name of Khomeini, they came in there, wiped him out. They became de facto bad. And now we needed Saddam to help us. So we sent him billions of dollars. In the 80s, what does that equate to? Billions of dollars? So Saddam wages war on our behalf. He does it for 8 years with our implicit and tacit support. Okay. Well, you got to keep in mind after World War II, the Middle East was rechartered. Now, I didn't say ratified, but rechartered. All these agreements needed to be ratified, meaning via signature, and whoever the prevailing party was in that given locale or country needed to accept it. That never happened in the case of Iraq and Kuwait. Kuwait was Iraq. Moreover, Kuwait has a burgeoning sea presence, meaning ports. They're right there on the Persian Gulf. Iraq is essentially landlocked. You have to come through a strait. They have one port. So basically, when the Western powers broke that up, and really to the benefit of their own oil company and infrastructure builders, they kind of left a stranglehold on Iraq. Moreover, yes, we were providing assistance to Iraq to wage war on our behalf, and I'm sure they wanted to as well. But in order to fund that effort, OPEC was already kicking. But Iraq was always going to be the tail end of the dog because it can't get its product to market. Not nearly as easy as, for example, Kuwait. And Kuwait had good old American and British engineering behind it. In fact, some good old boys right out of Texas. And you know what? They didn't mind doing a little horizontal, slant drilling. And since there was no boundary between those countries, they could just tap into those good old Ramallah oil fields that Iraq owned and pull from there. Despite OPEC's insistence, did you know Kuwait could always overproduce their quota? And every time they overproduced, and during those years it was typically by 20 to 25%, were we asking them to do that? Because, I mean, we're the ones that service those fields, service those refineries, service those pipelines, service those infrastructure, brought our ships and vessels through the Persian Gulf. Were we asking them to do that now? Why else would they? They had not a damn thing to worry about other in Kuwait other than live a hedonistic lifestyle, wrap a damn twig around their head, wear some long clothes, and go around there and, I don't know, drive Bugattis and Rolls Royces and fornicate with women, although women aren't allowed. What the hell was really going on? Do you realize that every time due to overproduction that oil prices went down $1 a barrel? What that meant at that time, at the late 80s to the beginning of the 90s for the country of Iraq, was $14.5 billion less to that country. I would say $14.5 to $15 billion at that time was a hellified lot of money to a Middle Eastern nation. Wouldn't you say so? So rightly so, Saddam was pissed. And he made his overages to us and to the UAE and to his Muslim councils. But for some reason, it wasn't happening. And they were still bearing the brunt of that. They still had loans to repay to Saudi Arabia, to Kuwait, to the UAE, because they had just spent a decade at war on our behalf. Well, guess what? Good old Saddam finally said, the hell with that, I'm going in. I mean, they've got more freshwater resources than probably all of the Middle East. They've got all this wonderful infrastructure. We can get whole here. We can take care of ourselves. And it was ours to begin with. If no one's going to listen, my country's going down the tube. Was it a desperate act? Sure. But he did it. And then we did it, right? Because Saddam still owed big-time loans for that war to Saudi Arabia. So we staged troops in Saudi Arabia. We built Kuwait, so we went into Kuwait. And so the American military did the deal after the American military supplied Saddam. It's kind of an ironic thing. Just 3 years later, my enemy's enemy is my friend. Now, we're starting to run long here, but let's just say this. So Papa Bush went in there. Storm and Norman wanted to proceed, but we didn't kill Saddam when it would have been very easy to do it at that time. But you know what? Now we had our bulldog by a leash. We said, boy, you get back to the head of your country and you do our bidding. We're just sending you a signal. Do you get it now? We're calling the shots here. You do what you're told, Saddam. We're calling the shots. And if you get a little bit out of line now, we're going to sanction you to death. We don't care what happens to your women or children. We don't have to worry about if they get into a life of crime. We don't have to mind if society starts to decay out of poverty. You're going to do what we say, and we need you right here. We need you as a bulwark against Iran. And if you play nice, you know what? If you play nice, we're going to look after you. Just like we did from 1980 to 1988. Think about that, boys, for a little bit. We're going to turn this into a revolving episode. Had no idea how we got here, but we did, and let's just keep on going. We've got to touch upon this a little more and bring it full circle. So until next time on the Comfortable in Chaos podcast, I bid you bon voyage, my burgeoning flock.